a martial arts movie podcast.
I threw that shit before I walked in the room.
Featuring drunken Thai boxer, Will.
Too bad you will die.
The also drunken wrestler, Mark.
I said I don't want trouble.
And drunken karate master, Zero.
You've lost your balls.
And now,
Call. I know Kung Fu.
You know, baby.
Fists of Fail. Hey, does everyone remember the ultimate martial arts movie, which is kind of like the tagline of the film, right? I mean, it's kind of like marketed that way. Remember 2008 when everyone was like, oh, man, we want to see a movie with Jackie Chan and Jet Li. And then
they gave it to us.
Yeah, and then Forbidden Kingdom comes out and we're like, oh.
No, not that.
Can we try again? Well, okay, right. Well,
I mean, I think fans were like, well, you gave us what we wanted, but maybe we should have been more specific. Maybe we should have said more than we want Jackie Chan and Jet Li in the same movie together.
Let's have them fight more than just once, and also not make it kind of anticlimactic. But not to start off this with the most negative vibes. After watching it again, it's not as bad as I remember it, but man, it is still incredibly forgettable. Do you? I don't know. Like, are you more negative on the movie than I am? Because I feel like that's
when this first came out. I remember going to the theaters and seeing it, and when I left the theaters, I remember that I forgot like everything about the movie. Yeah. and rewatching it this time with you, it was better because, as per most of our movie viewings, we talk during the movie, give our thoughts live to each other. And at least during the boring parts, we can somewhat entertain ourselves.
That is true.
So it was a little more enjoyable this time around. But then afterwards, I forgot everything again.
Yeah, I mean, something I do for the show, just for my own enjoyment, and also to pay attention to the film. But is give it a one pass, and then right afterwards, I'll watch it again, specifically for the fight scenes, and take notes.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, and that's why I try. Oh well, me being semi-type A kind of person, I kind of do that. But like watching again the second time around, taking notes, I'm like, maybe I need to watch it again. And I watch it all over again. I'm like, I have nothing to type here. And that's kind of like my general consensus with this movie. It's like, it's forgettable. And it's like not to already jump all the way to recommendations, spoilers, but I don't think this movie's fantastic. But at the same time, it's not terrible. It's just your very mediocre film.
It's very straight down the middle. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I think this film had a lot of uphill struggle just by having Jackie Chan and Jet Li starring it together, and having it be an American film. If this was going to be a Hong Kong Chinese production, I think we would have got something else completely different. But I don't know why it had to be an American film, because you have to make an American actor the lead. It has to revolve around him or her, and that's what happens in this story.
Right.
And putting Jackie Chan and Jet Li as side characters when the fans really want them to be forward, I think that's already a misstep right there.
Well, let's get to that white person in the room.
That white elephant in the room?
The white elephant in the room. That was actually part of their marketing redirection strategy. Well, this is something I didn't know that of the time, but like looking into the history of it, apparently initially when they released trailers, it got a negative fan reaction from basically everybody. I mean, who is this movie targeted for? Like people like us at the time, martial arts fans, Jackie and Jet Li fans. Even if you weren't martial arts fans, like you knew these big two names, and you're like logically in your head thinking, oh, when are they gonna make a movie together? Yeah. So we want them to be the focal point. but just like the Michael Bay Transformers movie, we need a white person to be the surrogate for the audience. And that was what the trailers were like initially. And they just kiboshed that right away. They're like, no. Like, everyone hated that. So, like, okay, let's just move away from that direction. And then just, now the trailers are going to only feature Jet and Jackie. And the white guy's barely going to be in it. But, like I was saying before, I didn't know this at the time. So, circa 2007, 2008, when this movie was announced, I avoided all trailers. I watched the movie pretty much blindly. I was like, oh yeah, Jackie and Jet Li. That sounds cool. And I generally don't watch a lot of trailers for the most part, unless, you know, it's... Unless like there's an absolute reason. But if I know, like, oh, it has these actors, it has this certain premise, whatever, I'll just go in a movie blindly. But for this movie, yeah, I went in blindly, and I was like, oh... Random white boy. Yeah, it's a random white boy. Like, oh, it's kind of like, it's like a sucker punch.
Well, you know, that's why they make movie trailers, to show you a preview of what you're getting to, you know, entice the people who don't know what it is, which was you. And unfortunately, you didn't take the bait. So you walked into their trap.
Yeah. Yes, I did. Well,
you walked into the Weinstein's trap. Haha.
Yeah, another Weinstein Company movie, which brings me to the point that I think you touched upon. So this is 2008, right? Both of these actors, they're at the height of their Western career, I guess.
Yeah, I would say so. I can understand why this movie... Now that I think about it, I can understand why this movie got made, because Jackie Chan's, you know, his American films are starting to come in more, as well as Jet Li's, and martial arts was becoming a big thing because of The Matrix, and it's bleeding into Hollywood and American cinema. So because they're just the two biggest Asian martial arts stars that at least Americans knew at the time, you know, put them together, give them what the American martial arts fans want. So that's what happened, I guess. Yeah,
my speculation is that a collaboration between these two could only have happened not only because of scheduling conflict, like schedule is aligning, but because these two are probably one of the higher paid Hong Kong action stars. So in order to afford both of them, you need something to match the, you know, what their budget is. And, you know, like, you know, the Weinstein Company comes into play. You know, so I guess it kind of had to be a Western movie, unless it was, you know, we're talking like the 90s. But, you know, like, obviously, you know, it wouldn't have had as much of a appeal universally. So, yeah, for better or for worse, we have the very Western targeted, like, collaboration between these two, which I guess is the perfect way to end Jackie Goes West.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're throwing in some Jet Li in here as well. This is, I guess, would you consider this as like Jackie's last big Western film? Like a mass, like garnering a wide audience? Because I feel like every movie after this, he's just done like, well, like kiddie films or like very silly, you know, I wouldn't call them bottom of the barrel, but I can't recall any movie after this. I think Rush Hour 3 was before this, right? If I remember correctly.
Let's see. Spy Next Door happened after this.
Yeah,
The Karate Kid happened in 2010.
Oh, okay.
And then
Karate,
from
but he
there,
wasn't. Yeah,
I think after that he kind of went back to China, because then that's when he did Chinese Zodiac, so he directed that. And then, it kind of trails off.
Right. So, yeah, I guess this is the best way to end off this theme. And I wouldn't say it ends on a whimper, but it doesn't sound like... It's not very triumphant, you know? It's not...
Yeah. Well, I think part of the issue, too, is the story of the Forbidden Kingdom, which is... So there's elements of the Journey to the West story, a very, very famous Chinese tale, adapted many, many, many times by many different writers and whatnot. I guess the most famous one I know of is Dragon Ball, That is an adaptation of Journey to the West.
Yes.
And I think the more specific and cultural you go in terms of how true it is to the actual Chinese story, I think that's where you're going to start to lose people. Because I think there's going to be some cultural things that, unless you're Chinese, like it's going to be too complicated, and you're going to have a lot of hand holding, right?
Sure.
So the fact that they wanted to make a Journey to the West-ish story for American audiences, I think that's another uphill struggle, right? And rewatching the movie, I was thinking, okay, I think this is not horrible, but I had to listen to Jackie Chan explain that explanation again, because like he's delivering the true like story to I don't even remember
Michael Angarano. It doesn't matter. Michael. Yeah. Let's just call him Michael.
To Michael, yeah. He's delivering to him the story of the Monkey King when they're in the restaurant. And no offense to Jackie, but I don't think he should be giving long bouts of exposition when his English, which he's speaking mostly during the movie, is still it's still a little dodgy here and there.
Right. We had the luxury of being able to watch this in the home theater. I can't imagine what 18-year-old me was thinking when I was watching this in the inside a movie theater. I must have like been doubly bored, because so much of the exposition is explained by these actors who don't speak English as a first language. It would have worked much better if they just spoke their Chinese. But it wouldn't have their... Then
alienates. You lose the American audience because they're reading subtitles. What are subtitles?
Oh boy. Well, the movie flip-flops a lot between when it wants to use Chinese and when it doesn't. Some scenes are like, oh yeah, they're speaking Mandarin for no reason. Oh, well, not for no reason. It makes sense that they're speaking Mandarin. It is fantastical folklore era China, so it makes sense. And then all of a sudden, like, there's a scene where like there's nothing but supporting characters, and they're only speaking English to one another. So you're like, why are they speaking English?
Yeah, they're doing it to try and appease American audiences. That's pretty much what it is. And there's probably times when it was just easier to have the Chinese actors speak Chinese because the white kid was in none of the scenes. So
yes,
that's I get it. Thinking back on my rewatching of the story, I think what they gave us was fine. I got everything, but man, you really got to absorb a lot of information.
Right.
Because
so
what I was thinking is, if they tried to simplify the Monkey King story, the Journey to the West story, would this got accused of like being whitewashed or claustrophobia? So maybe they had to try and add as many details as they could, so they tried, trying to respect the source material, right?
Yeah. I don't think that does a necessarily horrible job. I have mixed feelings on how I feel about the cultural appropriation in this movie. Yes, it is definitely taking a lot of liberties at like its own interpretation of the Journey to the West story. I grew up around the tale of it, but I don't actually know all the specifics of it, especially since I'm American born. But like I can definitely see like where they're getting like the foundations of like 4 journeymen or journey folk who are traveling literally west, as you'll tell in the story. Can tell in the story. Well, okay, wait. Let me backpedal a little bit. Let's break down the story.
Sure.
So Michael Anger. Oh man, I already butchered his name. He doesn't have the. Let's just call Jason. Jason.
I thought his name was Michael.
Michael, yeah, but I'm messing up his last name. Michael Angarano. There we go. Michael. Oh yes, we'll call him Michael. He is also apparently bottom billed, but in IMDb, he is a kung fu fanatic. Right? He is obsessed with the martial arts movies, but he doesn't know any, and he gets bullied by the stockiest of movie bully characters, which I actually find kind of funny.
Oh yeah, I love that guy. He was great. He was way too much of a bully. Like way too over. He went up to 11.
Yeah,
he was working for that paycheck.
I loved it. It was like a combination of overacting, but also like bad writing. It's just great. It's like it
was weird.
Exaggerated.
It was overacting, but he did still come across menacing. So I'll give the actor that. He was just doing it a little too. He got a little too into the bullying role.
The character. Well, I guess this ties into the story. The character goes from like racist, like insert racist things about Chinese people to like suddenly turning around and shooting a guy because he just becomes a little skittish. It's like he's just so over the top, and I love it because it's just like a trope of bad movie writing. But yeah, he shoots the old antique owner, played by a very old Jackie Chan. Oh, played by Jackie Chan in old man makeup.
In old face, yeah.
Old face, yes.
Yeah.
And then the Jackie Chan gives Michael a staff. The staff pulls him into another universe or another timeline, I guess. And then basically it's kind of like the Journey to the West story at this point. We meet a drunkard who played by Jackie. We meet Jet Li, who plays a monk, and then we meet nobody else because there's no one else important in this movie.
No. I specifically remember there being someone who liked to refer to themselves in the third person.
Oh boy. All right. Well, I think this was my problem watching the movie. This is my problem with the movie when I first watched it. And by the way, I don't think I've seen this movie since 2008.
Same here. I could not watch it again after that first viewing.
Yeah, and I remember how much I did not like this character. And watching it again, all my problems came back just full circle. The Li Bingbing plays the character of Golden Sparrow. And she is just a constant buzzkill. She is just constantly talking about herself and always in the third person.
She's talking to herself because she's speaking in the third person. She's always referring to herself as she or Sparrow. It's very annoying.
Right.
Don't write a character like that.
Yeah. You know what it is? The movie has a very straightforward A plot. And she is the B plot. You don't do that. You don't make a B plot with one character. Like literally, if you cut her out, there is only an A plot, and it doesn't. The B plot does not intertwine with A plot whatsoever. Like she is just constantly talking about revenge and getting back at Colin Cho, who plays the villain, the Jade Warlord. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you would think that she would either be kind of at least a little fun, but she's just constantly dour and just brooding.
Yeah, her only motivation is to get revenge, and she's just tagging along the adventure because I never felt that she was well integrated into the group. She was just there because she needed to be there because of story.
Yeah, we needed a female love interest.
Just to correct you, the Sparrow character was played by Liu Yifei.
Oh, really?
And Li Bingbing was the witch with the
white hair. Right. Man, I don't know if I'm going to throw this card, but they literally look the same. They really did. Because Li Bingbing, who plays the witch character, who is Golden Sparrow's rival, they could be cut out of the movie entirely. But at the same time, like Li Bingbing has her hair just like constantly covering her face. She looks just like Liu Yifei. I can't speak Mandarin. But this movie has the unfortunate just bloat. Like it's a very bloated film. At an hour and 40 minutes or an hour 50 minutes, it really does you feel every minute of it. And the Golden Sparrow character is what is like the nail in the coffin. She adds an extra 20 minutes to the film for no reason.
I don't know if I would say 20. I think her character was just completely unnecessary. And
Okay.
you and I were talking about possibly seeing if we could edit her out in our own little edit. Like, could we make it work?
Oh, absolutely.
I think it works to a point where in the end she appears in fight scenes and you would just be like, wait, who's that girl there? Why is she suddenly fighting alongside everybody?
Yeah, whatever. Just put a little block over there, black bar over her face. Like, it doesn't matter. None of her. She doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah. That's basically the gist of it. Well, but with the small detail that's being left out of the story is that the staff that Michael is holding is the rod of the Monkey King. The Monkey King is also part of the story, and it's divulged later in the movie, like around the 1/3 mark of the film, by Jackie in a very dodgy Chinese accent. Yeah. Yes. Long exposition.
That scene I was talking about.
Yes. Yeah. Jackie's explaining everything in English, and it's really hard to follow without subtitles. Just explaining. Everything.
So he explains, the story of the Monkey King essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we could have went without that? Do you think the story would have made sense without that long explanation with, the people living like kind of immortally, and the Monkey King like invades their party and all that stuff?
Right. I think since we're aiming towards like a Anglo-Saxon like audience, or like Judeo-Christian, you kind of need to set up the world a little bit. It kind of goes a little overboard, because it feels like sometimes they don't take enough measures to like absorb the audience into the Chinese mythology and Chinese culture, and sometimes it goes way too far. Because I noticed
the exposition goes really far.
Yeah,
because I remember thinking I remember watching it with you yesterday. And I was like, man, he's going. He's just explaining all of this. Yeah. I almost think that maybe they could have got away with removing all that stuff in the beginning, and then it was just Jackie Chan telling the story of the Monkey King fighting the Jade warlord. Like starting from there, he tricks him, and he encapsulates him in stone or something like that, and like that was it. Then the Monkey King sent the rod away, and then our hero finds it. Like we didn't need the more detailed explanation of all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yes, there is a scene where we see the Monkey King defeating a whole bunch of guys. Everyone's on wires, but it kind of works because it's supposed to be a very fantastical element or setting. But I think that's to set up the Monkey King's power level, and to also set up how what kind of fantastical fighter that he is, and also to set up the gods and deities that exist in this world. I don't know if they necessarily need that. I feel like when Jackie's explaining it, he was like going into a lot of detail. Like the whole Jade, like you could cut out the Jade Emperor character entirely.
That's what I was thinking. I think the main, I guess, like god-like character should have been just the Monkey King. I think we could have got rid of all those other guys like the Jade Emperor and whatnot. Right. And speaking of Jade Emperor, Jade Army, golden uniforms, there was like a huge disconnect for me there. Like, why didn't they just make them green? Why are they wearing gold uniforms? Why didn't they just call him the Gold Emperor or the Gold Army?
because Chinese and their obsession with jade. It's intertwined with our culture. Although yes, it would make more sense if they were wearing green. I think it's just for name.
That was just confusing. I was like, wait, they keep on saying jade, but I'm not seeing green anywhere. It was just they were just wearing all these gold.
Well, if we want to be talking about inconsistencies here, there's a moment where Jackie's like, "Oh yeah, like I got the staff. It's fake. It's a bootleg. It comes from the Silk Road." I'm like, we're talking about like folklore era China. Like the Silk Road didn't exist back then.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's all good. It's like there's something that people complained about when Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and this mostly came from the Chinese audience, which is that the movie was very it felt like a very neutered Chinese tale, which is both good thing and bad thing, because if you're appealing to an international market, you need to be able to, not confuse the shit out of them. Yeah. And Crouching Tiger does a good enough job of like instilling enough Chinese history. Well, not history. No, scratch history. Chinese culture, Chinese martial arts. A lot of like the mentality and characteristics of Asian culture are like in there without like getting into the fine details of history and such. And this movie doesn't do the best job of it. It tries to be like, okay, let's be culturally appropriate, but at the same time, let's also be extremely cognizant of the fact that we're catering to a Western audience. So sometimes they'll lose, like it definitely doesn't feel like it appeals to the Chinese audience, but also sometimes loses the Western audience.
Yeah, it's a difficult balance. Like,
yeah.
Like, do you try to give it to one side or the other, or if you go straight down the middle, then you get a movie that's literally right down the center, and it's kind of forgettable because it's trying to make everybody happy.
Yeah, and isn't that the definition of mediocre?
Yeah. It should have been for the fans, right? Mm-hmm. They're getting Jackie Chan and Jet Li together. This should have just been complete fan service. They shouldn't have tried to complicate the story at all. It should have been like, hey, let's put Jet Li and Jackie Chan in a bunch of wacky scenarios so they have to fight each other.
I was talking to a friend right before we started recording, and she said that the main issue with this movie could have been that it could stem from the fact that Jackie and Jet Li's action styles are so different, right? Yeah. And I completely see where she's coming from, right? So Jackie's a lot more whimsical comedy, is all about. Jet's very aggressive. He has a very hard style on screen, very strong presence. Not to say Jackie's not, but it's very different style. So
like Jackie's shot, I feel like their visual styles on screen were clearly defined at this point. Everybody, the Jackie Chan style, everybody kind of knew that. The more comedic, the more using the environment, that was clearly him. Where Jet style was more aggressive. For me personally, I thought of him more of like the kind of like action movie side, where he wasn't doing so much martial arts, but it was in there, but he was incorporating like lots more explosions and gun stuff. I feel from like his 90s stuff. Yeah, although he did do the classic like wuxia stuff, but for me at that point in 2008, I was associating him more with like the later 90s stuff I remember him from. Yeah, and then everything that came from the 2000s when he started doing English language movies.
Yeah. I'm wondering if the fact that Yuen Woo-ping was part of the production was like the perfect marrying of two different styles, like martial arts styles on screen. Because rather than having Jackie style or having Jet Li style, which instead we're just have a Yuen Woo-ping movie. It's a straight up wuxia film at times.
Yeah, so that for me, we're essentially talking about the action now. That's the issue I have, because if you have these two great martial artists, known, Jackie Chan for me more so known for his visual martial arts on screen. If you have them together and you're not capitalizing on it, why even have them? Like, this could have been Jackie Chan fights whomever, or this could have just been Jet Li fights whomever, choreographed by Yuen Woo-ping. Right. I think the problem here is Yuen Woo-ping did not incorporate what both actors are known for into the fighting properly.
Yes, some scenes, yes. No, well, okay. When they're fighting each other, which is probably the one scene that anyone's got to be talking about in this film, it doesn't necessarily feel like we're getting a lot of like the best examples of what Jackie and Jet can do.
Yeah, I think that works for Jet, like the infamous scene, Jackie Chan versus Jet Li. Like, I think all the choreography there works for him. Like that could be him doing that in any movie. But to have Jackie Chan fight him in that very standard way, and at that point in his filmography, he was kind of developing, he was known for something else. It doesn't feel like that's the best utilization of him as a martial artist, at least for me personally.
No, I agree with you 100%, and that's probably why the one fight between the two feels a little off, especially if you're a Jackie Chan fan. But even Jet Li, I was like, I don't know, like I've definitely seen better of them. And then this criticism comes from the point that like I'm understanding that both of these actors are also in their 50s by the time that this movie was being filmed. So yes, there's a lot of wire work to also assist in making them look as good as they did in their prime. But like I kind of had to throw all that out the window and think, okay, it's a Yuen Ping film. Like they're just gonna do a lot of like crazy like wire work stuff. But for the most part, I actually don't mind the ground game. Well, not ground as in like on the floor, but like the stuff that's grounded on like under 2 feet. That stuff is not so bad. It's just none of what makes Jackie or Jet special and unique really show their face here. And that's like, but I think that Jackie does get some moments to show off his style, like in his own standalone fights. But yeah, they're just fine. They're not spectacular. And
So, rewatching the film and rewatching the fights, I think there is one good moment that is the perfect utilization of Jackie Chan and Jet Li in their styles. It is when they are training, what's his name? Michael's character. They are now the two teachers, the two tigers on the mountain. Jet Li is trying to enforce speed, accuracy, power. And Jackie Chan's like, no, listen to what I say. Jet Li's like, no, listen to what I say. And it becomes like a comedy fight. Yeah. Jet Li is using precision and power to kind of strike at Michael, and Jackie Chan is using his body to fight for him. And it becomes, it's a great marriage of both actors. And it's in such a small little moment. I realized like, oh man, like they should have dragged out a little longer, like, because this is kind of what I wanted. I mean, yes, the white actor Michael is kind of wedged in between them, but I mean that still works anyway. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, I don't know. You can't have every scene in the movie be like that, right?
No, I get it, but like when I saw that, so after watching the big Jackie Chan and Jet Li fight and feeling like that's not what I was looking for, and then I saw that little moment, I realized, oh, okay, this is actually what I personally would have liked. Yeah.
Well, it's comedic for one thing. Everything you said is very
comedic,
true.
but it's still kind of aggressive because Jet Li is kind of they're literally like beating the shit out of that actor, and you feel kind of bad for him. Yeah.
All right. Well, back to that white elephant in the room. I think Michael Angarano gets a lot of shit for the movie. I don't think he does a terrible job.
I don't think he did bad either.
Yeah, and it's not even so much a byproduct of the writing. Apparently, both Jackie and Jet were the ones who were they were in favor of having a white cast member play the starring role, right? Because they wanted, when they were asked if they could get someone Chinese, apparently they said that they want someone who is Caucasian to fill in the role. But I think that was just PR talk. They probably wanted to make sure that it appeals to a wider audience, the international market.
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of understand how Hollywood works and how movies make money. You got to get, the audience in the chairs. And if you don't have somebody who looks like you in the seats, then why would you go see that movie?
Yes. Well, Angarano, Michael, apparently didn't know any martial arts before the movie. He trained for a couple months under Yuen Ping, and also, I guess, some tutelage under Jackie and Jet, and a little bit of Colin Cho, I think. And I actually think he does a pretty good job, like in terms of the fight choreography. They give him just enough to make him but with the simpler side, like fight choreography, that I think that he does a great, a pretty stand up job. And then anything that's a little more complex, I'm sure they got a stunt double for him.
Yeah, and the thing with this film too is in the story he doesn't know kung fu. That's the point. Yeah. And so when he's bad at times, well, he's supposed to be bad. We have a training sequence and a training montage, so he learns. And you do see some progression. And then in the end, like you said, just to go to that a little bit, that ending fight, everybody is fighting. There's you can't even hone in on any fight because we're constantly cutting between like 4 different things happening at once. So it's forgivable. And I wouldn't blame the actor for this. I mean, like, he got cast with, and he doesn't know martial arts. What's he going to do? Well, yeah.
You know who is kind of miscast in this movie? You and I mentioned this to you when we were watching the film, is Jet Li is kind of miscast to play the Monkey King. So Jet Li plays 2 characters in this movie. He plays the monk character who is on the journey with the lead and Jackie and such. But also, he plays the Monkey King in some brief scenes, and it doesn't work. And I not to shit on Jackie, not Jackie, Jet. I can shit on Jackie later. No, Jet Li. Like I've said this in the past. I think Jet Li works with a very limited range, in acting wise. He's very good with the stoic characters, very serious characters, like Once Upon a Time in China, or sometimes he can play like a little bit of like a silly character, like silly, but in like the broadest sense, like Feng Sayok is like an example of that, where he's like a little bit mischievous. But here, like when he plays the Monkey King, he plays like a little schoolboy, playing the character of a Monkey King.
The character he does for the Monkey King skews way too young. Way too playful, way too boisterous and silly. I mean, he's going against type, right? He's going against what he's usually typecast as. So I think that's what ended up happening. He went too far because he's like, well, I'm not going to be normal Jet Li. I need to be playful Jet Li. And I completely agree with you. I don't think it works too well.
Yeah, because playing the Monkey King just involves you sounding like Michael Jackson. That's what he does the whole movie. Shimon. I think that's basically how I feel. I guess we could talk about the action soon, but before we do, I think that the wire fu is something that we might be discussing a little bit. I know you're not the biggest fan of it. I mean, I'm not to put words in your mouth, Zero, but I'm very forgiving of wire fu if it is contextually appropriate, right?
I mean, it makes sense for this. This is kind of more of a wuxia, older kind of tale, so it feels appropriate.
And it's Yuen Woo-ping.
And it's Yuen Woo-ping, yeah. I don't like it when somebody's on a wire and it doesn't look like. And it looks like they're on a wire. I don't mind wire assistance when it's like, oh, we need to make that person fly across screen. Okay, here, point A to point B. But then you see the person like moving in a very awkward trajectory that makes it very obvious that they're on a wire. I don't like that. I think you can sell wire fu sometimes. I mean, but yeah, it makes sense for the story. But if it's not. I don't know, if it's not shot well, or if the guys aren't rigged up properly, that's when I kind of get annoyed.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, that's like the floatiness is always something that I always like. I usually don't like, even in the best wuxia films. But I mean, here I think I kind of excuse it because it really does feel like it's a storybook movie. So it's like, I can kind of forgive it. But yeah, I think there's like a general sense of me just not having that much to say about the general action. Well, not general, the opposite of general, specific action of the movie. Because the movie, it's not the fights are not terrible, but there's not much to hone in on. They're like, if I watch a fight scene, I'm like, that was okay. But then I'm like, I can't remember any specific moments where I'm like, that was awesome. Yeah, but the thing is, there's a lot of fighting in this movie.
Yeah, there is a lot of fighting in this movie, and despite the fact that there's a lot of action, there's a decent amount of choreography. Yeah, I'm gonna just echo that. It's kind of forgettable.
Yeah,
it's just doing its thing. There's nothing standing out about it. You know, Jet Li and Jackie Chan. I think this is the height of, like maybe the height of their actual prowess.
I thought you were about to say mediocrity for some reason. The height of their mediocrity. Because the height of their fame, maybe I don't know.
Their fame. Yeah.
They're not in their prime anymore. I mean, I don't want to mince words, but yeah.
Yeah, because it's not the 90s anymore. It's not a lot. I think a lot of fans, at least like their old school fans, would probably say something like, "Oh, once they came to America, they got neutered. Their action got neutered." But at the same time, they are getting older, so it could just be a byproduct of that. This is 2008. I want to say, because they're physical performers and they've just been doing it so long, I don't think it's because they're losing it. I think it's, I don't know. They just didn't really. Nothing came together in an interesting way. You know what? We don't have to break down the action if we don't want to, right?
That's very true.
If we feel that it's not worthy of breaking down everything, we could just always talk about it in broad
strokes.
Sense.
Yeah. Maybe we'll make a short episode for once. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. We're at the point where we give our recommendations, but there's a whole wealth of audio you would be listening to here if you follow us on Patreon. There you can listen to the entire episode, including an exclusive action breakdown of the fights in the movie. And now on to our final thoughts.
And then that's Forbidden Kingdom? Can we just say that's the movie?
Yeah.
Just forget everything else that happens after that?
I already forgot what we talked about. That's how forgettable this movie is. Boy, this should not be the case. Nothing about what we talked about today should be in the same vein of the word forgettable, but it kind of is. I literally am already forgetting the movie as we're wrapping up this film. I would be like, "Oh, Zero, do you recommend whatever movie we're talking about today?" I don't know. But yeah, oh man, Forbidden Kingdom. It's so sad because it should have been epic. It should have been great, but
yep. This is a huge misfire for martial arts.
Yeah. I don't know if huge, but yeah, it literally is just, if I was a martial arts fan, as a movie, without even being an action fan, it's literally just so safe and so bland on every front. I'm just like, I can't recommend it. I can't not that I wouldn't recommend it. I'd just be like, hey, do you have like 2 hours of your time to waste? To just put it on the background? Maybe. But that's like a really, really soft maybe. Like, I don't know if that would even say that. So bland. Like, I don't really have any strong feelings in that sense. It's just like, I kind of don't want to recommend it. Like, ultimately, I wouldn't.
You don't
really
have to.
Yeah, and then there's not many fights in the movie where I'm like, wow, this is Jackie or Jet Li at his prime. No, like, not even close. So yeah, like, I mean, I don't know. That's I don't know what else to say without beating this horse anymore. Zero, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is not exactly a movie I could recommend. Mm-hmm. I think if you're a Jackie Chan or a Jet Li fan and you haven't seen it, you got to do your due diligence and just watch it, and then kind of realize what the majority of the fan base is talking about, because I don't really hear too many people say positive things about this. So I think just find out for yourself. Like, okay, this is why it just doesn't have that much high praise. There's glimpses of hope every now and then, but it's just it's not what it should be when you have these two big names together, and that's the biggest, the most unfortunate thing for me. It's not what I want, but maybe on the flip side, fans probably would have never gotten exactly what they wanted. I don't know, hard to tell.
Yeah, hard to tell.
If they were gonna pit Jackie Chan and Jet Li together, it should have been in the 80s or the 90s, much earlier, when they were, when they were still up and coming, but still had that notoriety. So there would have been no red tape, no my PR team says I can't take this many hits, or vice versa.
Right. It's kind of weird because with their marketing towards a PG-13 audience too, it also kind of takes a hit because they have to filter what they can do. It's a lot of moving parts, and why the final product is not so great. Milquetoast. It's basically how I feel. And to circle back to what you said before, you can be a Jackie fan, you could be a Jet Li fan. I think you could still curate what you want to watch. I don't think you should go out and watch Kung Fu Yoga. All right, you don't need to do that. Yeah, no. That's why I'm not going to watch Kung Fu Yoga, Zero. Yeah, it's just absolutely not.
Hey, do you want to hear us talk about Kung Fu Yoga? You should hit us up on social media so we can make Will watch Kung Fu Yoga.
Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me?